Hello, gorgeous, and welcome back to another podcast episode of the Source Diva Podcast. My name is Sheila, and I'm so grateful to have you here. Cannot wait to get into the things. As you can see, we're in a different layout. We are in Nebraska with my wife, my intuitive mentor, my best friend, my sister, soul family, Miss Taylor. She's actually not here right now, so recording this podcast in her absence, but we will have podcast situations with her. If you guys are not following her, please do. She has an amazing way of explaining the spiritual, intuitive things, the energetic things in a grounded way that is not distorted, that's not up in the air, that's not full of fluff and comfort, and it's confrontation. And that's the kind of soul growth and journey that I respect and I put at the highest value. That's why we have the Source Diva podcast as well, because this whole intention is obviously, of course, giving you intuitive, grounded energetic pieces so you can understand, take them, put them together, and live and walk through your life with that in mind, because we don't want surface level validation or comfort. We want confrontation, we want edges, we want actual growth that gives you longevity, not just quick hits of dopamine that make you feel good in the moment. We don't fucking want that. So today's podcast episode, I actually had this idea as I was taking a nap with the precious pit bull that lives in this house, because the girl was literally sleeping on my chest. So precious. But I was getting this idea of recording a podcast on how energy, it won't go anywhere. It'll take different forms, but it will not go anywhere. Okay. Now, I wanted to dive into this in the sense of you holding this piece for yourself of this Source Diva. We talk a lot about Source Diva. We have Source Diva Boot Camp. We have Source Diva, the foundation. So 4-hour workshop, essentially, or the prerequisites to really understanding Source Diva Boot Camp. Okay. Link will be down below if you did want to get in the Source Diva foundation class. Okay. Because that is going to give you a lot of information. We have to chew on each piece little by little. Like I said, no dopamine hits here. This is longevity. We want to build something that is long lasting for the rest of our lives. Doesn't matter if it takes fucking 20 years, because wouldn't you rather 20 years you can shrink the timeline versus 50 years you in the same pattern for the rest of your fucking life? We don't want that. Okay. So in the sense of energy, not move, or energy, understanding how energy will continuously move and spread out, but then also to it's not going to disappear. Okay. The energy won't disappear. Even in the sense that you putting energy towards something, you not putting energy or awareness onto something. When we speak of energy, we speak of things that are you cannot touch them, right? These are obviously, of course, everything is made out of energy. If you break an atom apart, it is made out of 99.99999% energy. Every physical thing is energy when we really look at the core of it. So everything is energy. But when we think in the sense of our human perception of energy and the way that we see, or the way that we can feel and experience and hold a certain capacity of energy, it will not move, or it won't shift out of your view. It just gets spread out, and or it just continues to get louder and louder. Previous podcast episode was on addressing and acknowledging certain pieces within yourself. I'm fucking tired of this shit, and I'm so sick of it. I do not want to deal with this anymore, because it blew up in my face. It blew up in my face multiple times. I kept getting all the little tiny things. Obviously, I was not in the capacity and this was part of my soul plan too, to have this really rough, disgusting childhood. But I wasn't in the capacity to understand anything about reflections, about intuition, about how you can, hold yourself with God, with Source. And it wasn't until I was 14 where I was sick and fucking tired of it. And I was the one that was like, okay, no more, I'm done. I'm changing this shit. This is the last fucking time I'm going to go through shit like this. Because if you don't, they're just going to get louder. Let's not wait for us to have this huge blowout of something blowing up in our face when we've been getting cookie crumbs of this thing, of the energy that needs to be addressed for years and years and years. We just let it build more and more momentum to the point where it's like now you have a physical disease. Now you're physically feeling it. Now there's this huge physical thing that happens in your life because this entire time you were refusing to look at the small little energetic pieces. And I wanted to get deeper into what I was like channeling right before I was taking my nap, and I had this inspired, like intuitive nudge to talk about energy, is how we always will continue to open up space for energy, but we can always also to simultaneously continue to like restrict energy. Okay. Like we actively or subconsciously, mainly a lot of the time it's subconsciously because we're not realizing that we're doing this, we can restrict the way that energy is moving. We can restrict and place these like imaginary like blocks essentially in our energy and the way that it's being funneled and the way that it's moving, the way that it's being redirected. We can subconsciously do this. Okay. Obviously, of course, a source diva is a woman who she is on this high timeline connected to her intuition, connected to the way that she navigates her life with God, with source, without zero distortion, without distortion from religion, from spirituality, from the external world, her subconscious beliefs. Like she's willing and knowing in the sense that she knows she has to pick out everything daily and also hijack the system daily. Okay. No rest days. And even as we're resting and we're taking like literal physical rest for our body, we're still holding the high energy capacity of what it means to rest at our highest capacity, the highest timeline with God and with source and our higher self, where we're resting at the highest capacity. When it comes to you navigating your life and holding in these pieces where you're deciding to view yourself differently, view your reality differently, you're wanting to cultivate more open space for yourself, but you don't know where to start, it's because right now everything is blown out into proportion where you don't have like a specific grip on one certain area. And because you don't have a specific grip on one certain area, you also are simultaneously creating, subconsciously cultivating multiple restrictions in energy where it's like it can't move. So even think about how like physical items, okay, let's say this tumbler, for example, physical item, the energy is so condensed and it's so pushed together that it's now this like block of an item that we can physically see. But obviously, of course, if we think about like something very liquid where the energy is more free flowing, something like air where the energy is more free flowing, there's a lot of different avenues this place can go and a lot of different ways it can go and a lot of different spaces it can be cultivated. Like you can put water in a cup, you can contain it, you can, breathe air, but even in the sense like if you're in a room, you'll have air all around you and it's just in a one concentrated spot. It's the same thing with your energy and the way that you are holding and walking in those pieces of your energy, where you can either subconsciously or actively too through your actions, right? This is where like a lot of self-awareness has to come in, where you're building these literal physical blocks in your energy, whereas you could shift them, rearrange them, manipulate them, obviously in a source sense, and shift them in a way that actually allows a stream to move through versus you constantly pushing your energy and feeling like it's not budging. And the thing is, like, there's probably over, and I'm intuitively checking this number. Okay, there's like 6 different layers of this, where it's like 6 different layers of how this can be, this mass of energy that's being restrained is being created. Obviously, the subconscious is one, your beliefs is another, your actions is another, dark forces and like interferences with dark forces is another, um, what else, higher self, your connection to your intuition and God, that's 5, and 6. I'm intuitively checking into these as we're talking. What's the 6th one? That's also beliefs. It's like self-love, like your perception of yourself directly. Okay. So even specifically like your perception of yourself and how you like speak of yourself. With those 6 things happening simultaneously, you're having this mass of energy being or like restraining the actual flow of what could happen when it is broken apart and like rearranged and all the pieces are there where you can flow through certain circumstances. Now, it's not easy because imagine like I just gave you 6 things, okay? Imagine you now have to like actively look at these 6 things, work on these 6 things. And each of these 6 things have like 7 different avenues of them or 8 different avenues because it depends on like what area of life you have to now concentrate this specific thing on. And it goes on and on and on. This is why it's like a longevity thing. The whole thing with like just instantly having things happen or like the and I used to be guilty of this where it's like, oh, full moon ritual, like, oh, buy this crystal and get this candle and like do this thing and da 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 da. And it's like that works about like 50%, like literally half of the time. And the only reason why is because it causes a blow up where you can get a little bit of an opening to kind of move that energy through. But then on the other side of it, you still have that other 50% that will continue to haunt you and it's going to show up again. So it doesn't even matter. Like you might think that you're on the other side, but honestly, like with all the reflections that you're now going to get because you didn't fully clear everything, you didn't fully work around the pieces because you were insistent on something happening fast, you're then having to deal with it on the other side of it, right? And this has happened to me before too, where it's like really wanted certain things in my life, like really wanted certain things to happen, and I would make them happen, but then it's like I have it and now, or like I'm experiencing it and there's a bunch of holes in it and I'm not even happy, right? We don't want that. We want the long game. We want the longevity. We want to be a fully embodied source diva who knows and who's willing to take the time to filter out the weeds in every single part. So then by the time that we fully can hold that capacity, we can respect it in a way that's actually going to build more and more pieces and it just keeps building on top of itself. I always say on my Instagram is and even on the podcast is like I would much rather spend 3 years crying every single day dealing with my emotions, confronting my hard emotions to pick at these things, blowing up and like breaking apart, breaking down those huge masses of energy, the physical parts of energy that are feel like it's restraining me from getting onto the other side versus 20 years of not going anywhere. 20 years is a long time. And not only that, like you don't even have the full pieces. Like it's crazy how you like all of this that I'm saying is like you could think that that restriction in your energy is the worst thing ever. But if you're not actively working with it, like naturally, eventually you will finally gather all the pieces. Like the 6 things that I just gave you, naturally, eventually you will get them. But it could be when you're in your 60s and you've had 40 plus years of experience where things just happened and you finally understood versus you taking the bulls by the horn, putting effort and energy into directing it and working on it on your own. And it's going to be disgusting for 3 years straight. And you're going to be stinky because you're going to be doing energy work all the time. But then at the end of those 3 years, lo and behold, you cleared yourself of all these restrictions. And now you can actually enjoy the fulfillment and the capacity that you decided to open up for yourself. It's just something to keep in mind how, like, we live in a very fast paced illusion world that is insanely riddled by dark forces because dark forces love to do like the in your face candy that is not really like the fast, like the fast dopamine hits, right? Whereas like cooking a full meal of your life, putting in the right ingredients, making sure that it's clean, and genuinely enjoying the fulfillment of it is actually the path of higher self, of God, source, and a source diva. But it takes work, it takes effort. So I want you to just kind of view your life in this sense and see, like, I would go back and listen. Those 6 things write them down and just kind of chew on every single one of them. Like, what does this mean? How am I in this area of my life? Like, how am I treating myself in this way in my life? Okay. And just see what comes up and start to discover and like question what comes up there. Because from there, it just gives you more insight. And then you can start kind of chipping away. Like the way that I see it, even as I like channel into this energy, right? This concept of energy and this restriction that we place on ourselves, like it's a literal mass of energy. And the moment that you start opening up your awareness into viewing the greater sides of it, it's like little tiny crumbs start to fall off. And you want to keep doing that because it's every single day, more and more, more and more, that it's just going to be more and more momentum for you down the line. And not every day is easy because obviously we live in a very fast paced dopamine hit world where it's like, oh, I want it now. I want it now. I want this. I want this. Like, God, I wish I could just wake up and da 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 da. No, you don't. No, you fucking don't. No, you don't. So if this feels like something you can chew on, then I would love to have you join Source Diva Foundation class. And obviously, of course, follow the podcast, follow along for all the things. And I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast episode, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.